the other presenters for today's meeting, but first I'll go over just a few housekeeping items. As you'll see on the meeting agenda, we've got several topics to cover today, and once each presenter has presented their material, their information, we'll pause after that and see if anyone has any questions related to that topic. So for those here in the room, you can simply raise your hands, and I might not see you, but maybe hopefully someone over here will see you. And those online, you can ask questions by typing them into the chat box in the Teams, Microsoft Teams application on your computer, and we'll process those as they come in. And if you think of something related to a given topic that's already been covered, there is as always, a session near the end of the meeting, a question and answer session that you can ask those questions and any others you might have at that time. And as a reminder, we are recording today's meeting, and as always, that recording will be placed on the Water Quality Advisory Workgroup meeting webpage, as well as a summary of the meeting itself at some point after the meeting. So having said that, let's go ahead and do our introductions, and we'll start down on Jesse's end and go around.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jesse Grasalamia. I'm a permit writer with TCEQ Stormwater.
I'm Rebecca Villalba, team leader for the Stormwater Permits team in the Water Quality Division.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Applin. I'm one of the new technical specialists in the Water Quality Division.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shannon Gibson, Special Assistant for the Water Quality Division.
Again, Greg Easley. I manage the Water Quality Assessment section here in the division.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brian Sarant. I'm the team leader for the Land Application team of the Water Quality Division.
And I'm Bridget Malone. I'm the other technical specialist for water quality.
Classic. That's classic. Okay,
David.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into our agenda topics. The first one being the update on the implementation activities on legislation that came out of the that came out of the 89th Texas legislative session this past year. And I'll kick us off with an update on implementation of House Bill 3333 by Representative Morales. That bill added a new section in Chapter 26 of the Texas Water Code that essentially prohibits TCEQ from issuing a domestic or industrial wastewater discharge permit anywhere in the Devils River watershed in West Texas, anywhere within Val Verde County. We are already implementing this legislation in our permitting program for applications that were received on or after September 1st of 2025. And while it's not required by the legislation, we're also planning on performing a rulemaking to add a subchapter to Chapter 11 of the 30 TAC Chapter 11 of our rules, which is the watershed protection rules, to memorialize the legislation and a new subchapter. And the goal for that is to have that in place by the end of calendar year 2026. So with that, any questions on that particular piece of legislation?
Verde County has a lot of heavy springs.
A lot of springs?
Heavy springs, but you've got a lot of untouched or untapped groundwater from both Trinity and Edwards. So I'm guessing, and I don't think there's hardly any water production. Because the Devil River feeds off of the Pecos. So that could have some impact ultimately on activity that affects or plants putting water into the Pecos River. it impacts that. So I would just put one comment, and I know y'all are going to do a great job. I've started my water career in 1974. So y'all were just clouds when I started. One thing that's, I think is most important, you'll consider in your permits and application. Because we want this, here's an untapped water source in the oil field. 900 billion with a B barrels of water a year to be transitioned to public use. There's a whole new water resource that we've never had before. But it has got a lot of problems with it. Been testing it since 2012. And one of the things is toxicity testing, other than your final parameters for your discharge levels. Probably the most important thing that's going to be in your permits, toxicity issues.
Oh, yeah, appreciate your comment. That's a particular.
We want this to be acceptable by the public, and we want to be safe in the environment. And that, if anything's going to kill it, that's the one thing that's my personal.
Yeah, appreciate your comment. And yeah, that is talking about produced water in general. That is a topic that comes up here. Yeah, so definitely stay tuned. We probably be talking more about that topic future meetings for sure. So, any other questions before we move to the next?
Only what's the gentleman's name who spoke? I didn't get his name.
Oh,
Bill Yates.
all right. So for those online, that was essentially Dale Yates providing some comments on topics such as produced water. So no question was asked, no response needed. All right, let's move on to Mike's topic.
Yeah, and I'll give a quick update on House Bill 609, has to do with oyster mariculture. This one was already on a couple of agendas back, so it should be familiar. It became effective September 1st, 2025. What it'll do is allow cleaning of a structure used to grow oysters for cultivated oyster mariculture over a water in the state. It's going to be addressed under general permit number TXG 130000, which is the aquaculture general permit. And that's being revised to allow for the cleaning of oyster mariculture growth structures over waters in the state. And I'm going to discuss that TXG 13 in the general permit in a few minutes on the agenda here.
All right, thanks, Mike. Any questions on House Bill 609?
So just to be clear, that means it'll be addressed through the general permit as opposed to rule. There won't be rulemaking on it, just be addressed through the permit. Am I reading that?
Yes. Okay, and then the next thing on the agenda here, I'm going to talk real briefly about Senate Bill 1302, which has to do with general permit eligibility requirements. That bill amended section 26.040 of the Texas Water Code by adding two new subsections, H1 and H2, that beginning on September 1st, 2025, those new subsections prohibit an entity that has been denied or had suspended a general permit due to an unsatisfactory compliance history rating from eligibility to get or renew a general permit unless the executive director actively authorizes the discharger to use the general permit, and the discharger cannot use an automated process to get such an authorization. TCEQ is planning to implement this change by amending Chapter 205 of the Texas Administrative Code to mirror the Texas Water Code requirements, amend the 17 general permits with the new requirements in a kind of phased-in approach as each one of those comes up for its 5-year renewal, and update existing agency technology tools to facilitate that change. And the goal for this one is to have the rule changes adopted by the end of 2026.
All right, thanks again, Mike. Any questions on SB 1302 1302 implementation?
Mike, y'all have any sense of any? Was sparked by at least one case cited during session. Don't know how many people that could affect.
The actual number of permittees.
Yeah.
So it's starting, it's not retroactive. So it's starting from September 1st of 2025 moving forward. So anybody that we deny or suspend after that date is the one that's going to be affected. So right now we don't have anybody. Yeah, it's for the future, it's not retroactive. So initially it was proposed to be retroactive, but it got changed. So it's moving forward.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to Shannon then.
Thanks. I'm going to give an update on Senate Bill 1145, which is the land application of produced water. This bill took effect on September 1st, 2025, and it amended the Texas Water Code, section 26.131, relating to duties of the Railroad Commission to transfer authority from the Railroad Commission to TCEQ to issue permits for land application of water produced from certain mining and oil and gas extraction operations. The bill requires TCEQ to establish a new permitting program and application review process. To support the new program, TCEQ will develop application forms, SOPs, and regulatory guidance. That received permit files from the Railroad Commission and pilot study files and is beginning to review those files. TCEQ will be required to conduct rulemaking to implement the requirements of the bill. We've initiated a rulemaking to update the memorandum of understanding between the Railroad Commission of Texas and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, located under section 1.117 of the Administrative Code. This rulemaking will transfer permitting authority from Railroad Commission to TCEQ for land application of produced water. In addition to SB 45, this rulemaking will also implement several other bills from previous legislative sessions, including SB 786 from the 88th Texas Legislature in 2023, which added Texas Water Code 27.037 regarding jurisdiction over closed loop geothermal injection wells. SB 1186 also from the 88th Legislature in 2023, which granted the Railroad Commission jurisdiction over brine mining and did some other things related to authority to regulate brine production wells. It also will implement HB 1284 from the 87th Texas Legislature in 2021, which consolidated jurisdiction over onshore and offshore Class 6 injection wells used for geologic sequestration and storage of carbon dioxide, solely to Railroad Commission once primacy of this permitting authority is obtained from EPA. So the rulemaking we're going to conduct on the memorandum of understanding does more than, or will implement more than just SB 1145. We anticipate taking this rulemaking before the commissioners for proposal this spring and adoption next summer of 2027. Good stop there. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I wasn't quite done yet. Sorry. Additionally, TCEQ has initiated a second rulemaking to implement SB 1145. The second rulemaking will amend 30 Texas Administrative Code Chapter 309 relating to the domestic wastewater effluent limitations and plant sitting to clarify applicability and requirements for land application of produced wastewater. This rulemaking proposes to rename the title of Chapter 309 to Wastewater Effluent Limitations and Plant Siting. The second rulemaking will also amend 30 Texas Administrative Code Chapter 210 relating to use of reclaimed water to ensure that produced water that has been treated for beneficial use may be used as an industrial reclaimed water source. TCEQ anticipates taking this rulemaking before the commissioners for proposal again this spring of 2026 and adoption also next summer in 2027.
Thank you. Cyrus, you had a question?
So my question is going to actually be, so the rulemaking is only about the MOU. You're not going to have any rulemaking on effluent limitations. And I think you answered my question by saying you will, because that's really important. I mean, we supported the bill, but wanted to make sure there is a rulemaking, establish what those limitations are going to be on that application of produced water. So that's important. But I guess my other question is, what happens kind of in the meantime? So you're aiming for next summer to have both the MOU and the effluent limitations adopted. So in the meantime, there's going to be folks who are interested in doing land application of produced water. How are they going to know what guidance are they going to know, and how is the public going to know whether those are safe or not? Like what's the process for now until next summer?
That's a great question. I'll start by saying that we have received application files and pilot study files that we're reviewing, but I'll turn it over to Greg if that's okay for if we know what we're going to do yet in the interim between when we've initiated these and when we actually complete these rulemakings.
Yeah, I mean, I think the short answer is we're still figuring that out. I mean, my understanding is that nothing's preventing, applicants from submitting applications, and it does come in. We have to do the best we can. But yeah.
For example, would you use the Railroad Commission's kind of their existing guidance on those land applications, or would you be revising those?
I think we'll definitely be taking into account how, what the Railroad Commission had in their authorizations. But we fully expect to also go beyond that in the sense of, what other things are necessary to make a protective.
And I'm sorry, I know other folks probably have questions. This will be my last question, so other people have questions. For example, on wastewater discharge permits, the TPDS permits, which, obviously are sort of different than land application, those are now published online so the public can see them, see if they're protected. What about these permits? Are there ways for the public to see the proposal? I assume they're not.
There will be once they get that far along, just like any other permit.
Okay, so they will.
They'll be treated the same.
They'll be treated the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same public notice requirements and opportunity to comment.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Can I ask a question? Being you guys really don't have any rulemaking right now, and you're going to be looking at Railroad Commission, how they handle the land application of produced water. It's going to take a little bit extra time, I get it, but what time frame are you guys looking at for an application to be filed? Months, years,
It typically takes a year to get an application filed.
Is there a reason why it takes that long? I'm just asking. I used to be with the Railroad Commission, and we never took that long to ever issue any kind of permit. We just didn't. That was mandated down from top down, because that stymies industry, and like I say, I was on the regulatory side of it. So a year and a half that's detrimental to progress. That's all I can say. I know you already have some rulemaking from the Railroad Commission. That is a good foundation to start with. And like Dale was saying, please look at toxicity of this stuff. So I'm not sure. I guess what I'm trying to get is what in the process is taking that long to get permit for land application? It's concerning to me.
Well, then to be clear, we haven't received any applications yet for land application. On the discharge side of things, we have received applications. And, with any other applications, our goal is to process them as quickly as we can. But given, again, this is a new program for us, we're still kind of getting our feet underneath us. But ideally down the road, we hope that the processing times, mirror those of the other types of applications that we process.
But it typically takes about a year from the time an application is received to get an issued permit. No, just in general. That's typically how long it takes from the time for any of our programs. It typically takes 11. We have 2 different public notice periods and opportunity for public comment. We have different levels of technical review and administrative review that it's got to go through in order to ensure that we develop a permit that is protective of water quality in the environment. And so it does need to hit all of those milestones.
Yeah.
We don't want to shortcut that.
No, I wouldn't ask for that. There's
One of those.
is there a simultaneous looking at permits? I mean, because I know that's something that was implemented by the commission too, where they could simultaneously look at applications that came in from different disciplines, so you're not waiting for it to be passed on. You're looking at your piece of the pie. And
unfortunately, our permits are site-specific permits.
Yes.
So they don't really get reviewed in concert with other, they are kind of done on their own for that site-specific review. So there really isn't a way to batch these. We do have general permit options and look to develop those where opportunities arise.
I understand there's groundwater issues and things like that over in different areas. That's, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, he had a.
Oh, thank you. All right, yeah, I'm seeing Marty's question online. How is the TCEQ working with the Produced Water Consortium to incorporate data developed and produced by the consortium? I will say in general that, yeah, we do pay attention to the work that's done by the consortium, both in this state and others. And that's also going to be true of, both on the discharge side of things as well as land application. We are involved in their meetings. We review their work products and things of that nature. So I know it's a little bit high level, but that in a nutshell is something that we do consider in the context of our permitting responsibilities here for produced water. Right. Any other questions on this topic?
Yeah, another one comment.
Turn away and there it is. Will there be an opportunity for the public to comment on the draft rulemaking, and when is that anticipated?
Sure. The answer is yes. When it goes to proposal, there will be an opportunity for public comment, a 30-day public comment period. And at the end of that, there will also be a public hearing on those rules to obtain public comment. We are anticipating that for end of spring 2026. We're targeting May of 2026 for that to take it to agenda and go to public notice. So most likely that public notice period would occur in June.
All right. Thanks, Shannon. I think we've got all the questions on that for now. So we'll move on to Senate Bill 2307, which I think is still with you, Shannon. Right?
Yeah. Thank you. Senate Bill 2037 established an expedited permitting program for liquefied natural gas export terminals. The bill took effect on September 1st, 2025, and requires TCEQ to establish a new expedited permitting program and application review process. To support the new program, TCEQ will develop application forms, SOPs, and regulatory guidance. We will also conduct rulemaking to implement the requirements of the bill. Specifically, we're planning to initiate a rulemaking to amend 30 Texas Administrative Code Chapter 318 to add new subchapter E, general requirements for liquefied natural gas export terminal discharges, and to establish an expedited permitting program for LNG terminals. This rulemaking proposes to rename the chapter from expedited water quality permits, to expedited water quality permits from marine seawater desalination discharges for consistency with the topics of the subchapter and to include new subchapter E. TCEQ is also planning to initiate a rulemaking to amend the public participation rules once the current rulemaking on those rules has been completed. More details on the nature of that rulemaking will be provided at the next advisory work group. That said, TCEQ is already working to expedite liquefied natural gas terminal applications that were received after the effective date of the bill.
Any questions on that?
So on that second piece, the public participation, basically what you said is because you just did rulemaking and public participation, you're waiting for that to be finalized, and then you'll open it up for that specific issue of the expedited LNG.
Correct.
Okay.
And I think those are coming up for adoption very soon.
Yeah.
So we should be able to get going on that soon. Thanks.
All right, we'll move to the last bill under this topic, House Bill 4112 with Rebecca.
Hi, yes, I'm going to give an update on House Bill 4112 from the 89th legislative session. So this House bill amends Texas Health and Safety Code 401.0525C, and it is a bill that was set up to prohibit TCEQ from authorizing a general construction permit authorization or approving a stormwater pollution prevention plan or issuing a permit under the TPDS program for the construction or the operation of a facility that is licensed for the disposal or storage of high-level radioactive waste by the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission under 10 Code of Federal Regulations, Part 72. So what we have done so far to implement this bill is that we have already amended the application forms, both the notice of intent and low erosivity waiver applications for the construction general permit, as well as the notice of intent and the no exposure certification forms for under the multi-sector general permit. Both of these are the stormwater general permits. So we updated the e-permitting system, or STEERS, as most of you know it. So the application forms online that are used electronically to submit the applications by permittees were already updated. So the question for the construction general permit was amended on November 15th. We provided notice to all the entities that at that point had a pending application that hadn't been submitted to TCEQ yet, that the applications forms were being updated so that if they didn't submit an application, their application was archived. So the new form was effective November 15th. For the multi-sector general permit, the application form was released on December 19th, as well as the same way that we did for the construction general permit, entities that were pending an application, we also notified the multi-sector general permittees that were waiting on an application that their application was going to be archived. It was not submitted by the deadline. So e-permitting already is being implemented. So those applications now have the question that asks if the facility is licensed for the storage or disposal of high-level radioactive waste by the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission. They cannot apply or continue with the process to obtain a construction general permit authorization or a multi-sector general permit authorization. Further, right now, a little bit later on, Jesse will give you an update on the multi-sector general permit renewal process. And you will hear that that's also one of the proposed changes that we're making to the multi-sector general permit, is to also add language so that we implement this House Bill 4112 as well. No rulemaking is needed for this implementation.
Hey, Rebecca, I remember going back to the last legislative session, there was some work done to clarify that bill to make sure that prohibition wouldn't apply to an existing nuclear site that was just storing on site.
Correct.
Or for a university like the Abilene Christian, where they're building a sort of a test nuclear, they can still get a stormwater
Correct. Yes.
permit. But the language in there doesn't prohibit that.
No. So, and in the permit, we did propose to include a little clarification of that, but yes, thank you for bringing that up.
Cyrus made my point because I worked with Comanche P. Texas project, so we can continue to store our stuff.
I would like to ask a question about 23rd legislature passed I don't remember the number of the House bill and Senate bill. But a wastewater plant can be constructed without permit, assuming it is connected to the collection system of the main sewer plant as a legal contract to release product to that waste stream. And that land, that water from that wastewater plant would be, the intent was to use that under 210 locally.
Not quite. That was Senate Bill 1289 for reclaimed water production facilities exclusively. So it wasn't just a plant that could do this without a permit. It was a specific type of plant that was producing reclaimed water, and they could dispose of excess reclaimed water by contract through the conveyance system.
So my point that I was trying to make, particularly in relationship with the stormwater treatment. These wastewater plants installed upstream of the main plant, the discharge was permitted to the wastewater or the stormwater collection system. That stormwater collection system contained some type of a packaged surface water treatment plant. All that stormwater, as well as that wastewater from that area, be recycled in that area in the public drinking stream. But yet there's no harm to the environment, assuming, of course, discharge of those wastewater plants naturally needs to have a proper quality, I understand. But my point is, that particular area that served that wastewater, that upstream wastewater plant served, solved several problems. One, it's going to introduce probably 50% recharge with a very minimal cost because the wastewater bill pays for the wastewater plant. That area takes pressure from the growth off of your downstream wastewater plant that's struggling to meet permit regulation. Plus, one of the big emphases in all the push to spend a lot of the new money we have for infrastructure is going to be on faulty collection and distribution streams that leak. My question is under the 210 or whatever, is that opportunity going to exist? Those upstream wastewater plants to discharge into those stormwater collection ponds, which are secured areas. There's going to be opposition because if they do that, it's not going downstream in the river somewhere. But there's a tremendous relief on the current systems. Not only that, but we have a tremendous relief on the water resource. And we are all struggling. We're all out of water right now. There's reasons for that. I'm talking about that. But my point is that going to be opportunity for us to do that? I want to build a plant, and there is some brand new developments going in. These are wastewater system or hook onto the collection system of the main system. And I put a localized plant there. It will be incorporated with their stormwater collection. That could be retreated through the public drinking water permit with a public surface water treatment plant. Be introduced directly back to your distribution system of your public water system. That was my question. Are we going to have that opportunity?
I'm not quite following. Under the Senate bill that you mentioned, I don't think it grants an opportunity for what you're describing. That might need some sort of separate.
That was my understanding of the bill, that if there could be for water to be permitted under 210, those plants could be introduced upstream as long as they had a contract and they were connected to the collection system of your main wastewater plant. They would not need a permit, but they would have to meet the same discharge parameters that permitted sewer pump.
No, I don't think that was at all indicated.
That was my understanding.
I'm sorry. That doesn't seem to match the description of the analysis that was provided with that bill.
We talking about the same bill.
It's the one that allowed for disposal of excess reclaimed water by contract. Then that's That's the one we were talking about.
It's one in 20, I don't remember the numbers of it, but I read the bill at the time that, when I understood.
Implemented a bill from that time period. Pretty,
And then I just wanted to know if that opportunity is going to be available.
I don't believe as you described it, that we have anything on our rules that would allow for that. Or in statute. But we can always touch base afterwards so I can get a clearer understanding.
Yes. All right. Any other questions on the Bill 4112 implementation? I think we're done with that. Thanks, Rebecca. Last topic under the permitting program updates, Homeland Security annual contact information update. Bridget.
So, thanks, Greg. This is Bridget Malone again. I just wanted to provide a quick reminder that we will once again be asking for our permitted wastewater treatment plants and facilities to go ahead and update your Homeland Security contacts and verify all that information within the water quality emergency preparedness module. So that's at WQEPS in the STEERS database. This information is really crucial for our emergency preparedness and response efforts. So within the next few weeks, you should be receiving an annual update notification request for each of your permitted facilities. You'll be getting that in the mail and the email. The actual updates, you'll need to go ahead and log onto the STEERS e-permitting system by probably the beginning of March. The notification will include the date of when that information is required to be updated. If you need more information, you can always go to our website. You can just go to tceq.texas.gov. In the search bar, go ahead and put Homeland Security contact information. That page has a ton of information about how to do that. If you do not receive any notification from us in the next month or so, it's highly likely that the information in STEERS has not been updated or is outdated or possibly even incorrect. So just a reminder to go ahead and do that. It's essential. We need that information. We really want to make sure we have the most up-to-date information to prepare for hurricane season and any other potential disaster events. Additionally, this information is reported to the EPA each year as requested. And then kind of a thing we're looking at this year, we're going to do, both the notifications through mail and email, but we are hoping to transition to electronic deliveries in the future. So hopefully we will just be sending an email. So just make sure you do have emergency phone numbers, emergency emails. I know some people may not have emails. So as of right now, we still will be sending that hard copy. But you're going to be hearing this a lot. We're going to continue to remind y'all of this transition frequently. It's a little bit better to have that emergency contact email because if there is some sort of disaster, you will receive any sort of information in a more timely manner than a mailed paper notification. So again, just some tips when updating. Make sure you review and update your emergency contacts. If you've already done this previously through STEERS, you will be able to kind of fast track your update. You can just update your changes as opposed to filling out everything. And if you want to go ahead and log in, throughout the year, you don't have to wait for our notification to update contact information. If you have a change, you can just log into STEERS. You don't have to wait for that annual request from us. And don't forget to provide accurate front gate latitude and longitude coordinates. And again, if you need any more information, the website I said has a lot of information. There's a YouTube video and tutorial to walk you through. Answers a lot of questions, has some FAQs, frequently asked questions. And again, if you still need assistance, go ahead and reach out to Water Quality Division at 512-239-4671, or you can email the Homeland Security email at homeland@tceq.texas.gov, or you can even reach out to me directly. Again, I'm Bridget Malone. My direct telephone number is 512-239-4286. And my email is bridget.malone@tceq.texas.gov.
Thank you, Bridget. Any questions about that? I see there's a question, online question, I believe related to stormwater, but maybe I'll hang on to that. Once this next presenter gives their information, we'll cover that one, Matt. So hang tight. Oh, is it next? Oh, sorry, I was skipping ahead. Skipped way ahead. I skipped Rebecca. No wonder she was looking at me like that. I was like,
I can be skipped.
all right, sorry, I skipped over a topic, so we'll jump back to the MS4 topic with Rebecca. Sorry about that.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to give you a program update regarding our 2024 Phase 2 Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, otherwise known as small MS4 general permit, both an update on the applications and the annual reporting requirements. If you're not familiar, this permit that we call the Phase 2 or the small MS4 general permit regulates stormwater discharges from municipalities that are regulated under urban areas with a population of 50,000 or more people. The general permit was renewed on August 15 of 2024. The deadline to submit applications was 180 days, so the applications were due for renewal and new applications by February 11th of 2025. Currently, we are still reviewing renewal and new applications. Applications were submitted electronically via the new Texas Net MS4 application system that was developed by EPA. So as we're reviewing those applications, there's different actions that we have that we can take. One is what we call a denial, but it is really known as our notice of deficiency. If you receive a notification from the Net MS4 system electronically via email, it will be saying that your application was denied, and then you will need to address our comments or concerns that we have and resubmit your application. Once you do that, it will reappear in the Net MS4 system as a new NOI. However, it is still considered a renewal, and we honor that original date when you submitted your application first. So that's one of the ways that we are acting on applications, is sending notices of deficiency. If we do have a true denial, we deny your application, that's going to be because we have an incorrect application type, you have an unsatisfactory compliance history rating, outstanding fees, we're giving you the opportunity to pay those fees. Some of you, sometimes we've seen up to $70,000 that you owe. And maybe it's not the MS4 themselves, but it's a different department within that organization. And because of that, we cannot move forward with the application review and approval. Also, maybe you do not meet the criteria for waiver eligibility if that's one of the options that you selected. The other action that we take, of course, is approval. If we approve your application, you will receive that notification through the Net MS4 system. Everybody that is a preparer, a signer, editor, viewer, everything that signed up as a user permission will receive that email. You will get the email with the certificate, as well as you can access that through your Net MS4 system. So currently, the status of the applications, we have approved 269 notices of intent. We currently have on hold, which means pending applications to review. We have 385. We have a total reviewed 63% of our universe. And so that may not make sense to you, but that means it's 433 applications that we have reviewed. Either we have approved them, or we have sent out a notice of deficiency, or there's a glitch in the Net MS4 system, and we're working with the EPA to get that resolved. So periodically there's glitches where somebody resubmits the application and then we cannot access it. We cannot either deny it or approve it. So in that case, we have to wait until EPA can go ahead and clear that glitch, as we call it, and release that application, and then we can move forward. So we have reviewed a lot of applications. Most of them require a notice of deficiency, at least one round. So just to give you some statistics, of the 269 applications that we have approved, only 52 were approved without a notice of deficiency. That means 217 were approved with at least one notice of deficiency, and 38 have been approved with at least two notices of deficiency. So every time that we go back it takes time for the MS4 to get signatory to go ahead and approve, make the application provisions that were requested. So that takes time. So as you can see, the majority of the applications are requiring a notice of deficiency, and that's why it's taking us a little longer to review and approve these applications. However, the good news is that once you do get approved, your application is renewed or your new authorization, then your 2024 stormwater management program that you have prepared and the associated BMPs need to be implemented right away. You need to begin tracking and measuring those activities, those BMPs. If you have changes to the notice of intent that we approved, then after receiving approval, you can make changes via a notice of change or an NOC through the net MS4 system as well. So the NOCs need to be submitted electronically. Please note that for this general permit cycle, you no longer have 3 options for a reporting period. We only have the calendar year option, which is January 1st through December 31st. So under the 2019 general permit cycle, if your year ends, your year will end when you receive approval of your renewal application. Then the 2024 general permit cycle, year 1 will start when you receive approval of your renewal or new application. So make sure that you understand that. If you have questions, please let us know. Staff is really good that as soon as an application is approved, they're going to give you some guidance as to when your 2019 year ends and when your 2024 year 1 starts. So be sure if you have any questions to respond back or ask questions of the person whoever reviewed your application. So at this time, the development of the annual report module in the Texas Net MS4 system has been paused by EPA since April of 2025 due to limited resources at the federal level. It is right now unknown when EPA will resume the development. They have not told us that they're going to forget about us. They're going to continue helping us, but at this time right now it's paused and we do not know yet when they will resume. So because of that, now entities have been approved under the 2024 general permit, and the general permit says that you need to submit the annual reports electronically, unless you obtain a waiver from electronic reporting. However, because the glitch or the issue is that we don't have a system yet developed by EPA, it is on EPA. And EPA has said that it's okay for us to allow you to submit a paper application. So therefore, if you get your application approved under the 2024 general permit cycle, you need to continue to report or submit your annual report via paper hard copy. So we're not excited that we're going to be receiving 600 and some paper annual reports again. But, we have to do what we have to do. So the annual report template, as of today, just a little bit ago, it is updated. It's on our web pages. So remember, your annual report is due, as well as the duly authorized signatory. That's otherwise known as delegation of signatories. We had a paper application form, but for MS4s now, the phase 2s, you can go ahead and submit that electronically through the net MS4 system. So make sure if you are going to designate somebody to sign that annual report, that you go first through the net MS4 system and submit that delegation of signatory form as well, like I said, otherwise known as the duly authorized representatives or DAR form, prior to submitting your annual report to us. That way, when we receive your annual report, we know that it was already approved to be signed by the delegated person. So that's the update on the phase 2 MS4 general permit application reporting requirements that we have right now. Any questions?
Yeah, I do. There's a couple online, and you may have covered most of them already, but just to be sure, since I skipped over you accidentally. So, sorry, scroll up. Were MS4 application NOI approvals for the current permit discussed, specifically numbers of approvals and those in progress, as well as anticipated timeline to receive approvals?
Okay, so I think we answered most of them through my talking points. So we started reviewing the applications for the renewals. So the renewals are the ones that we first started with, because those entities need to get approval as soon as possible because they already have a stormwater management program they need to continue to implement. So we reviewed those first and we're working through them. And then we're moving on with those new MS4s that really are existing MS4s, but they applied after the February 11 deadline, so they had to get a new authorization. We're working on those. Those are the second set. So right now we are already touching those, working on those new that really are, not new. And then we will proceed with the new applications. Our goal is to get them reviewed as soon as possible, of course. Right now we are approving about 50 a month. That's sort of our average as of this point. We are getting a little bit faster depending on, what's going on, other than waiting for the MS4 to respond when we send those NODs. We're giving a deadline. If you don't respond within the deadlines, if you ask for an extension, we will grant that extension. But if we continue, then we might have to take other steps to make sure that you respond in a timely manner. So some of the delays have been caused also because people don't respond as we ask them. But staff is doing the best we can. And right now, like I said, we are averaging about 50 a month that we are reviewing and approving.
Okay. And then for MS4s that were approved in 2025 under the 2024 permit, will TCEQ push our year one annual report deadline, 2026, to mid-April instead of March 31st, since an updated AR template has not been published?
The annual published as of today, so it is now on our website. The web pages were updated yesterday, but the form, we had a little hiccup, but the form is updated now. And so that's available. If you have any specific uniqueness or questions, reach out to your application reviewer or to me, and we will go ahead and address any nuances or special circumstances on a case-by-case basis.
All right. Another question. The annual report template is titled, quote, Phase 2 Small MS4 Annual Report Requirements and Template 2019 TPDES General Permit Number TXR 040000, end quote. Is this correct?
Yep. So that's for the 2019 general permit cycle. For the 2024 general permit cycle, it will have the title of 2024, and on the footer you will see a revision date of January of 2026.
Okay. The website references the annual report form TCEQ-20561, but it is not available.
It should be available now.
Okay, it should be available now, and this may be related.
I can't see it.
You can't see it. Okay, so Jesse says he's not able to see it, but saw it before, so we'll work. It should be there sometime today.
Okay. And this may be related. The new template is not on the website. The announcement is there, but the template is not. And then
it'll be there this afternoon.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
It should be there eventually, if not right now. So, and then someone else is saying the old one is there, but the new one is not. Well, hopefully that will be all we'll see, the new one soon. And this, again, probably related form TCEQ-20561 for MS4 annual reports does not appear to be available in the search for forms page. Is there somewhere else it is posted?
It should be posted on our main Phase 2 MS4 webpage. Actually, it's on two web pages. It should be. So yeah, if you check later on today, yeah, we found out yesterday late that the 2019 form was linked where we said that the 2024 should be there, but we're working on getting that updated and should have been already updated. So it's there?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd probably get
Yeah,
end of day.
we'll find that
Okay.
fixed. Thank you.
And then one more, what was the annual report signatory delegation form called? Is there a form number you can provide?
Okay, so that no longer is submitted by paper. That needs to be submitted electronically through the NetMS4 system. And it's called duly, what did I call it?
Authorized representative.
Yeah, duly authorized representative, DAR. So that is an application form or a form that's available in NetMS4. So you no longer submit that by paper.
Okay.
The annual report this year will be submitted by paper, but the duly authorized signatory delegation needs to be submitted electronically.
Rebecca, don't want to ignore anyone behind me. Any questions on this topic? Okay. Thank you, Rebecca, again. Making sure I don't skip anything else. I think we can now safely go to the general permit updates, and we'll start with Jesse.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jesse Guerra-Salamia. I'll be covering the multi-sector general permit, TXR 050,000, otherwise known as the industrial stormwater permit. So this general permit regulates stormwater discharges from industrial activities and is set to expire on August 14th of this year. TCEQ initiated the 2026 renewal of the general permit and is currently at the end of the proposal phase of the general permit renewal process. On May 21st of 2025, TCEQ sent the draft MSGP to EPA for their 90-day review. On August 18th of 2025, TCEQ received a response letter from EPA with approval to proceed with the issuance of the draft general permit without comments or revisions. I'll send the major revisions. It's a list of major revisions that we've covered in previous meetings. I'll make sure that those get added to the meeting notes. But I do want to also highlight one that was mentioned earlier. So we added the definition of high-level radioactive waste to the general permit to include a provision to prohibit authorization of discharges associated with the operation of a facility that is licensed for the storage of high-level radioactive waste by the United States Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And this revision implements House Bill 7 from the second special session of the 87th Legislature of 2021. Additionally, we have revised the MSGB to also include prohibition of discharges associated with the operation of a facility that is licensed for the disposal of high-level radioactive waste as a result of House Bill 4112 from the 89th legislative session. One question that we did receive earlier was whether or not we're considering the exemptions or how that is addressed in the general permit. I do want to clarify, we did write the language so that the general permit does not address the exemption or does not assign the exemption, but rather refers to the rules for further guidance. So the general permit won't exactly determine whether a facility is exempt, but rather refers to the rule that provides that exemption. Additionally, the general permit underwent a 30-day public comment period from November 14th to December 15th of 2025. The notice was published in the Houston Chronicle and Texas Register on November 14th. A public meeting was held on December 15th of 2025 in the TCEQ headquarters agenda room. As a result of the public comment period, TCEQ received 9 comment submissions compiled into 14 separate comments. TCEQ is currently in the process of carefully reviewing every comment individually in preparation of a response to comments document. Some of the topics that we received in the response or that we're addressing in the response to comments subjects include PFAS monitoring, public availability of records, STEERS applications, notification to the MS4's SWIP requirements, benchmark monitoring requirements, and Sector J. Following the development of the response to comments document, TCEQ will be moving forward with management briefings in preparation for adoption. The general permit is tentatively scheduled to go to Commissioner's agenda for consideration for adoption in late July, early August of 2026. And those are all the updates that I have for now.
Any questions for Jesse?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I have a question. So in summer of 2025, or about 6 months ago or so, I understand that MSTP was amended to allow for TCEQ to regulate oil and gas, industrial stormwater related to oil and gas operations. However, online, I'm still seeing the 2021 permit that was signed at the time that it was originally issued and not the amended permit.
Right.
Is it acceptable for oil and gas facilities that would now require coverage under this amended permit to wait until the new permit is issued, or is there a reason why it's not available other than going for permits? Meeting like the summer amendment.
Before y'all answer, could one of y'all kind of summarize the question or?
So the question was regarding the amendment for oil and gas implementation as part of the MSGP. It was amended last year, early summer, late spring. And the question was regarding whether or not those facilities that are required to obtain coverage should wait until that general permit has been posted on the TCEQ website, or if they can go ahead and apply for coverage.
So so I'll answer it two ways. So one is if those entities, which I think between 8 or 10 that had an authorization from EPA, because they're the ones that have that authority, that, if I recall correctly, that permit from EPA expires next month. So they need to go ahead and come in and apply under our general permit, because now we have the authorization and they have we have the mechanism for them to come and apply. So they need to come in and apply before our general permit, before EPA's general permit expires, because then their authorization will expire and they would have no continuance. That's why we did the amendment when we did it. We couldn't wait for the renewal of the MSGP, the normal one, because then there would be no permit between February and August for anybody to apply. If they are a new, entity, then yeah, they can go ahead and apply, but that is available. The applications in STRC permitting is available for them as well. Yes.
I'm just trying to get clarification here. So this is for oil and gas waste, not for the discharge permits, but for stormwater.
Or stormwater.
Okay, so for storm, and they'd be covered under the same
Yes.
multi-sector
Yes.
permit. Okay.
Yeah, before the multi-sector general permit didn't allow that, it had an exemption that was the prohibition. But now, because of the delegation of House Bill 2771, we are allowing it.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Thanks, Jesse and Rebecca. All right. Next up, Mike Applin's got a couple of GP updates.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier I was going to talk about the aquaculture general permit TXG 130000. We are, as you know, proposing to renew and amend that general permit, which authorizes discharges from an aquaculture facility or a related aquaculture activity. The renewal will replace the current permit when it expires on April 18th, 2026. EPA reviewed the draft permit package and provided approval in a letter dated May 27th, 2025. Significant changes to the general permit include it revised the definition of wastewater to include water from the washdown, cleaning, and flushing of sorters and tumblers, types of processing equipment commonly used in oyster mariculture. And it revised Part 3 to allow Level 5 facilities, in other words, oyster mariculture facilities, to clean system components in or over water in the state. Notice was published in the Houston Chronicle and the Texas Register on August 22nd, 2025, and a public meeting was held, and the comment period closed at the end of the day on September 22nd, 2025. No public comments were received, and the amended permit is scheduled for adoption at the Commissioner's agenda on February 11th, 2026.
Okay. Any questions about that general permit?
Okay, and then next on the concrete batch general permit, TXG 11-0000, that the TCEQ on that one is proposing to renew the concrete batch general permit, which authorizes discharges from ready mixed concrete plants, concrete product plants, and their associated facilities. The amendment with renewal will replace the current permit when it expires on November 7th, 2026. The draft permit was sent to EPA for their 90-day review period on 10/10/2025. EPA reviewed that draft permit package and provided an approval letter dated January 9th, 2026, so just last week. And now we're going to start with the proposal phase of that project.
What's the timing on that?
So
If you can say.
question is, what is the timing on that?
I'll get it real quick.
Yeah, Shannon's going to look it up for you.
Thank you.
So we're hoping to take this to proposal to publish notice in March.
The notice will be published in March.
Any details on the proposed amendments that you can share? He says renewal and amendment. The concrete batch.
I don't have anything
Let me
else
get
to
that.
do that one thing else.
Okay.
This is all. This is like.
I don't think there was anything very significant. We did have some. Most of it's pretty minor changes, updating some of the wet testing sample types or testing species. We clarified some of the representative monitoring requirements, clarified requirements related to adverse conditions and added requirements for monitoring waivers. But let's see. We clarified, or we revised information regarding the stormwater prevention pollution plan. Specifically, it requires the SWIP to be certified, adds a requirement for the SWIP to be maintained on site and made readily available for review to TCEQ personnel as well as any local pollution control agency with jurisdiction. Clarified that each point of discharge must be indicated on the site map and should include the longitude and latitude. Added a requirement for personnel at the facility not directly responsible for implementing or maintaining activities identified in the SWIP and who do not participate in employee training program to receive training that includes at a minimum the basic goal of the SWIP and how to contact the stormwater pollution prevention team regarding stormwater issues. Requires that the annual comprehensive site compliance inspection report be certified. It also clarified that an incident of non-compliance is an instance where an element of the SWIP is either not implemented or the specific conditions of the permit are not met, and added a requirement for the annual comprehensive site compliance inspection report to include all necessary actions to remedy the non-compliance and all identified actions to be completed as soon as practicable, but no later than 12 weeks following the completion of the report.
And then there is a question, did want to go back to the aquaculture permit. So Mike or Shannon, where can we find a copy of the updated aquaculture permit?
It's not available yet. It's scheduled to go for adoption in February, and then it will be placed online and made available. The proposal documents that were put out for public notice are available through the CID, the Commissioners and Integrated Database, which includes a copy of the proposed general permit.
Great, thank you. Any other questions on these?
The concrete production facility discharge, just remind me, are the changes that you're mentioning, are those something that were required legislatively? Or this is just a general update of that permit? I know there's lots of legislation that was discussed. I just can't remember if anything actually passed that required you guys to that.
Sure, none of these updates are were required based on implementation. They were just general permit updates, probably for consistency with the MSGP requirements for the switch for the construction general stormwater.
Others? All right, we'll move to the last general permit update from Brian.
Yeah, good afternoon. I just want to give some background and some updates on the pesticides general permit, which is TXG 870000. TCEQ is proposing to renew and amend the pesticides general permit, authorizing the application of pesticides into, over, and near waters of the U.S. for control of pests consisting of mosquitoes and other insects, vegetation and algae, animal and area-wide and forest canopy. The amendments are for consistency with the EPA NPDES pesticides general permit. This requires level 1A operators to document visual evaluation and additional monitoring of the treatment area, to keep pre and post application records of visual evaluation, and to sign the pesticides discharge management plan in accordance with 30 TAC 305.44. Currently, there are 17 facilities under this existing general permit by notice of intent submittal, comprising mainly of cities, counties, Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, and the Trinity Bay Conservation District. I'm going to provide you with some updates. On August 20th, 2025, TCEQ received a no objection letter from the EPA with approval to proceed with the issuance of the draft general permit. The notice will be published in the Houston Chronicle and the Texas Register on January 23rd, 2026. A public meeting will be held on February 23rd, 2026 in the Commissioner's Agenda Room, and we'll also place notice of documents on our general permit webpage. And finally, February 23rd will be of course, the end of the comment period. And that's all I have.
Okay. Any questions on that general permit?
Can you once more say what the date was for the public meeting?
February 23rd.
Oh, the public meeting and the end of comment.
Yeah, it'll be on the same day.
Any others? All right, we'll move to our last category of updates with Bridget.
Okay, I'm going to provide a brief update on the rulemaking design criteria rules, the proposed 30 TAC chapters 217 and 222 amendment. So TCEQ is still currently making revisions to those items. The initial kickoff meeting was way back in 2020. I believe comments started coming in about a year later, November 2021. At the beginning of 2023, there was a bunch of stakeholder meetings to discuss each subchapter: collective systems, alternative collective systems, activated sludge, disinfection and safety, preliminary treatment, natural treatment units, sludge processing, and subsurface drip irrigation. And then the first set of draft revisions were completed around June 2023 and then April 2024. So comments from each of those stakeholder meetings have been considered, and currently division level engineers are working on finalizing the proposed revisions. Fingers crossed, hoping to get it back to our legal department within the next few weeks. Those revisions do include making changes to subchapter C for collection system requirements, particularly expanding the section on reclaimed water distribution systems, updating the emergency power requirements for critical components of both the collection systems and wastewater treatment facilities, adding new requirements for nutrient removal, and then again, the amendment to chapter 222 would be moving chapter 222 subchapter T, which talks about subsurface area drip disposal systems, into chapter 217 as new subchapter I, and then repealing chapter 222 subchapter D.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Say soon?
Soon to legal.
Soon to legal. So well, you wouldn't expect this to be publicly available until maybe the fall or?
What's that timeline looking like?
1 second.
The best case scenario, I think we're hoping to get it to agenda by summer, but that's if ever legal, yeah, we don't want to make any promises, but.
Sorry.
You're good.
Hoping to, get it to proposal mid to late summer this year. Shooting for mid.
All right, thanks, Shannon. Any other questions? All right, now we can open it up to any other questions you may have or meant to ask earlier. Anyone has any?
I'd be asking a question for these folks, but there were, and I don't know if this is the right, I don't know if you have the right people to answer the question, so if you're not, just say you're not the right person, people, but there have been a number of applications for discharge of water around the Pecos. I want to say I've heard there's 4 or 5, might be wrong on the number, but do we know kind of the timeline when to expect to see, they've applied, they're being reviewed by you guys. Do we know the timeline for when we might see a draft report, draft permit for comment, for public comment? Do we have any sense of the time on that?
Well, not a great sense. I mean, at least a couple of those applications have reached the draft permit stage where one has been developed. And so there's, in the process of being reviewed by the respective applicants. So once we get
so
past that stage,
we might see at least one in the next month or so.
Optimistically, perhaps, but
Couple months.
maybe more like a couple. Yeah.
I'm for being careful and taking your time, but I think people do want to. We do want to see it.
Yes. Yes, you shall see, but yeah, the timing is still a little hard to pin down, but we're getting close. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Okay, well, I think I'm not seeing any other questions, so just a couple announcements before we close out. The next quarterly meeting of the Water Quality Advisory Work Group is going to be on April 14th of this year. Same time, same building, and it's also a Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. And also just a reminder that we have our annual Environmental Trade Fair and Conference coming up. It's scheduled for May 19th through the 20th, and it's going to be in San Antonio again this year at the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center. And there's a link provided in the agenda that you can click on to get more information or details about that. But that's all that we have. And so appreciate everyone coming and participating as always, and hope you all have a good rest of your day. And we will see you next time. Thank you.